I think, what's the time here? Okay, it is 11:01, so let's go ahead and get started. Mr. Manager, you got the floor.
Great, thank you, Mayor. I do not have anything for you on page 1. On page 2, we have our HUD annual performance and evaluation report that we have to file, and that has been out there for public comment. I don't believe any comments have been received, so this is approval so we can file it with HUD. Number 2 is a rework of our financial arrangement with the Dunbar to go ahead and allocate $580,000 in CDBG funds that had been previously approved by the council, but we're changing the purpose of these funds, and it's to accomplish really what would be the first phase of Dunbar Theater improvements, which would provide for a community facility once this work is completed. And then they'll have a usable building that can be oriented towards the community as they continue to raise funds for the theater renovation. Number 3 is some additional allocations of CARES Act funding for homelessness services through ESG, Emergency Solutions Grants. Number 4 is the annual renewal of the contract with Visit Wichita. This in 2021, we would have an allocation of $2 million for their tourism and convention promotion. Just as a note, when you adopted the budget at this time last year for them for 2020, it was at $2.5 million. When you amended the budget, we had reduced that all the way down to 1.6 based on their reduced activities related to COVID. They do expect to see more activity in 21, so that would come up to the $2 million. Still not up to the full allocation from last year. That's all I have on page 2. On page 3, number 5 is the establishment of the budget for the multimodal facility in Delano. This is the transit facility, $19.2 million budget, which includes federal funding as well as money that was allocated in the capital improvement program previously. This would allow us to then go out with an RFQ for design once we receive final approval of that document from the FTA. Number 6 is $990,000 to complete the design for West Street improvements, Harriet Apani. Right now we're asking you to allocate $730,000 of that, and then we'll come back after the first of the year to have you allocate the remaining funds that will be available for that work. Number 7 is the selection of the owner's rep for the BNR project. However, this is just for the very first phase of that work, $294,000 during what we call the concept phase, as they're experimenting with the concepts that will then guide the design process. Number 8 is the designation of a naming advisory committee and asking the library board to serve in that capacity for the Joint Library Neighborhood Resource Center community building at Evergreen. Number 9 is your annual approval of our insurance coverages. Number 10 is creating the Diversity, Inclusion, and Civil Rights Advisory Board, and this is consistent with what you had received in a workshop previously following the recommendations of the Council on Diversity, Inclusion, and Civil Rights. That's all I have on page 3. Page 4 was that carryover item, the approval of the National Electric Code. That's all I have on page 4. Nothing on page 5 or 6. Page 7, I would just highlight that D is the approval of all of the funding agreements for cultural activities. You already approved the allocation of the funds. These are the actual agreements that would implement or actually establish the work that would be accomplished with the allocations.
And hence the reason our packet's so thick.
That's correct. Because we know you'll read all of those agreements.
And just to be clear, we've already, you said this, but we've already approved these allocations. These are just
That's
the
correct.
contract.
That just implements that.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all I have on page 7. On page 8, just highlight that this goes along with the item on the multimodal transit facility. This is approval of the budget and the contract for the demolition of properties there on the property, the demolition of houses on the property located west of Sycamore between Texas and Maple.
Hey, Bob, on that one, just to clarify, because I've heard this, I think, on social media, but we purchased this from the development group. They are the ones that purchased this from the actual homeowners.
That's correct. Yep. And when we purchased the properties, they were all vacant, which was also an important item for us in terms of meeting federal requirements. All right, that's all I have on page 8. Page 9, number 10, you'll be approving the Public Housing Authority's 2021 budget.
I apologize, I'm taking notes. Can you just briefly describe what weapons destruction is on page 8, in case I'm asked about what weapons we're going to be destroying?
Yeah, Mayor, if you remember when we raided your house, all of those weapons.
Yeah. You guys find out I took that tank home?
Yeah,
Is that what?
all of those weapons, and the grenade launcher and everything. These are, if I remember this list, these are weapons that have been seized by the police department in their enforcement actions that are not in working condition, and the state law then provides for those to be destroyed. Any that are operational or operable have to be sold at auction. So these are the ones that would be destroyed.
Okay, thank you.
And with that, that's all I have.
I had one clarifying question on item 10, page 3, the creation of the Diversity, Inclusion, Civil Rights Board. If approved, council could make appointments before March, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Just had some folks that thought that we'd have to wait till March. I want to clarify that.
Oh, because that's when our terms begin?
Yeah.
Oh,
No, since you're starting this up from scratch, you could do that.
Okay, thanks.
Was the question about selecting terms from March?
Yeah, there were a few individuals that felt like if the council approved it on Tuesday, we couldn't make appointments until March. And I had said that was incorrect, but I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
This one will take you a while to appoint, to come up with members, because there are different backgrounds that have to be represented on the board.
And if it is approved, we can start messaging out there what the process is to get on the board, because I've had folks who are also interested in serving this capacity, so it'd be good to get people involved. All right, any other discussion or questions about the agenda? If not, anything else for the good of the group? See none. Anybody from online? Guess not.
James is, I think, but I don't see anybody else.
Was anyone who wants to jump in with an announcement or update?
Good, thank you.
All right, so with that, if there's no objection, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.